Hello there, and welcome to the Impact Zone podcast. We are back again to talk more TNA wrestling shenanigans. And today, I'm talking about why branding matters. And I think I'm specifically talking about the upcoming match, the 10-man tag team match that's at Sacrifice. Basically, it's a lockdown match, but it's not called a lockdown match. Now, it is one of those things where obviously this is just the example that I'm bringing up because it is right in the palm of my of like a lot of people's mindsets right now. So what's like maybe there is some legality around the name of lockdown or whatever it is, especially like the 6 sides of steel and whatnot and that sort of thing, that sort of idea. But they had 4 sides of steel before as well, in some of those lockdown matches. I think some of the later ones. So yeah, like I don't understand what the specific issue is with that one, but why does branding matter? Why does it have to be called a lockdown match or a lethal lockdown match? Well, that's what it's been known as, like if suddenly they would have a Hell in a Cell match and just call it a match inside a large box or something, inside of a large red box or something, or whatever it is, or not use the name Hell in a Cell. Like, it would clearly be like, it is Hell in a Cell. Everyone knows it's Hell in a Cell. Same thing here. Everyone knows it's a lockdown match or a lethal lockdown match. Perhaps it doesn't have the quote-unquote roof on the top or whatever it is, and it's not 6 sides of steel or whatever, obviously. But again, it is lockdown. Like, everyone's thinking this is a lockdown match. So why not call it a lockdown match or something like that? Like, that is what the match is. Everyone knows what it is. So stop, like, avoiding saying that it is that. Like, just call it what it is, Like, it's not a, giant red cage around the ring match. It's a lockdown match, or it's a Hell in a Cell match, you know what I mean? Like, it is what it is. Like, again, I guess that there might be some legality behind why they can't call it a lockdown match of some description. Maybe, I don't know. But it doesn't seem logical in my perspective. They have the rights to everything else that's in TNA. They should have the rights to this. Like, it doesn't make any sense, guys. Like, but again, like, this is the thing. Like if you were to say, again, let's, like, WrestleMania, and they're going to change the name of WrestleMania. Like eventually at some point, like early on, you might be able to get away with saying, let's change the name of something, or let's shorten the name, to something. Like the Great American Bash. Like a few years ago, they changed it to the Bash, or whatever it was. This is in WWE. But, like, people still knew what it was. They knew it was the Great American Bash, even though they were just calling it the Bash or whatever, So there's a few of those that have been around too, like shortening of, like, names or brand names and things like that. But still, people would consider it, this is what it is. They know what it is, and they're trying this different branding or whatever it is. So again, this is like what, like once you're used to something being called something over any period of time, even for maybe less than a year, let's say, and I don't know how many of these certain matches you would get to call of a certain type that would be in a year, but let's say same thing with tag team matches or something like that. Like, clearly these are tag team matches, not partner matches, or not, I don't know, bring a friend to tag match or something like that, or, bring a friend to, like, wrestle with match or something. Like, what? Like, you're, like, there's no point in trying to change what the, like, you could say that this is, you know, um, you know, a partners match maybe or something, or the partners in this tag team match, or the tag team match partners for this person or this person, like things like that. You could use some of these sorts of adjectives in place of it. Like you could say, instead of always calling it the Hell in the Cell, you can call it the cage structure. That's the adjective. You're saying when he hits the Hell in the Cell or something like that. You don't have to say Hell in the Cell every single time or whatever it is. You don't have to say lockdown every single time or whatever it is. Again, whatever, he's not going to, you could say he's going to tag his partner in a tag team match. He's reaching for a tag with his partner or whatever he's working for that tag. He's trying to get to his partner's corner for a tag. Things like this, using the phraseology and these adjectives or whatever it is to sort of paint that picture of what's going on. But again, this is branding. Once a show or a match is, tagged with something, First Blood match, Texas Death Match, whatever it is, people the rules don't really change over time. People know what the rules are of, Texas Death Match. People know that the call your shot gauntlet works because it's been on a few times. People know how the Royal Rumble works because it's been around forever and a day or whatever it's been. You know what I mean? So you know what to expect when you hear the Royal Rumble. If somebody says this is a lockdown match, if you've never heard of it before, you might not 100% know, but everyone who's ever heard of it will know what you're talking about. But you're just going to say, oh, this is a 10-man tag team match where, these are the rules. You're effectively copying and pasting the rules of a lockdown match. That is a lockdown match. I don't know, at least in TNA it is. You could, in WWE, they have War Games. In WWE, they have the Elimination Chamber. I'm trying to think of other similar things. They have Hell in the Cell, etc. They have a lot of other things. They have lots of things that are matches. And TNA brought back the Dog Collar match a few years ago with Marsha and Killer Kelly. It's not a match you see often. They don't do a lot of First Blood matches. This is the first, I would say this is the first steel cage match in a few years, since 2019, I believe it was, when Callahan and Brian Cage went one-on-one in a steel cage. And from, I think it was 2016, this is the first 10-man or tag team match. I think the last one was also a 10-man, but I'm not quite sure. I can't remember. Match like this. So that, and I believe that was a lockdown match. So again, it's so important to brand some of these things. Why? Because then what can you do? Guess what you can do? Sell merch. Make money. Put this alongside the other lockdown matches and say this is the new iteration of it. And hey, when somebody goes back in history or something like that and looks up all the lockdown matches or whatever it is, if this isn't branded as a lockdown match, though technically it pretty much is following the same rules, it's they'll miss it. They won't see it because it doesn't say lockdown or whatever it is. Yes, that's tied to the pay-per-view or whatever it is in some sense, but you could still have the match itself away from the pay-per-view. We talked about branded shows before being not that good of a thing. Having a theme or an idea behind a show is a lot better, like Sacrifice or Rebellion or whatever else. That show is all about rebellion. That show is all about sacrifice or what you're willing to sacrifice or whatever it is. Slammiversary, it kind of has its own theme. Like, it's an anniversary show, it's all about history. And again, somebody pointed, and I even think I was talking about this a while back, that the Hall of Fame should really be at Slammiversary, not Bound for Glory, because Slammiversary is all about history. So what is history? Hall of Fame, people that have done stuff in the past in the company, celebrating the legends that are the TNA, Hall of Famers. That should be at Slammiversary, not at Bound for Glory. That makes more sense to me. Again, it would fit much better with the branding of that show being all about history, honoring history, remembering the people that were, here before us and whatnot, and has paved the way for this company to be here today, 20 some odd years later, whatever it is, 23 odd years later, 24 this year, I think it is. So, yeah, again, like following along with your branding. Keep the branding together. Don't separate things into different things, like saying, oh, we're going to have this Hall of Fame thing at Bound for Glory. Why? What for? It doesn't make any sense. Like, just because it's the biggest show of the year? Like, you could actually have 2 sets of Hall of Fames if you really damn well wanted to, and you said, okay, we'll go, like, especially now, because it's like, you might as well start having more. Like, why not? Like, I think the first few people that were in the Hall of Fame, maybe they should have even had a second person sometimes in the Hall of Fame, and sometimes they've missed it, where it's been like, oh man, why didn't they put anyone in this year or that year or whatever it was? Which didn't make sense either. It was like, dude, you should be trying to say, let's find people to put on in the Hall of Fame. Why aren't we doing that? Like, what is the, what is it that why we're not doing that? Unless we're just like forgetting like where we came from, or we just can't, talk anyone into coming or something, or whatever it is, which should be able to do easily. Bound for Glory. What's the theming there? You are bound for the biggest thing, in a sense. Like, again, Bound for Glory is meant to, like, be TNA's WrestleMania. Like, it's really kind of trying to be TNA's Starrcade, honestly, because it happens about the same time that the old school Starrcade used to happen, around that, Thanksgiving time period, October time period. Because in that time period, usually there's a big boom in wrestling. People coming together at Thanksgiving and whatnot, sitting down to watch wrestling, whatnot. But yeah, no. Surely I feel like the same way about like everything. Like everything, the X Division title, the tag team titles, whatever it is. The branding of that title, like, you don't literally just have to have X Division style wrestlers, but that's the idea of the division, like that. You need X Division guys in that division, and not to say that they only belong in that division, but again, like, you need to have guys that fit in with that. You need to have guys that are in that division that are willing to do, basically whatever it takes to be, take the risks to become, the X Division champion. It's a different style, it's a different pace, it's a different, and again, like, I feel like the title should be taken as seriously as, the world title in some ways. It should feel on par with other titles. It shouldn't ever feel like, oh, this is just a cruiserweight title, or this is just a, whatever title. It's a great title to have as an opening match title thing, because it's one of those things that it is the title, or it is the division that usually gets, the show started, because, hey, get the crowd amped up, get them going, get a good, fast-paced X Division match out there, and let's go for this. Let's kick this off in style, So again, that's a great, opening match. But again, like, you've got to elevate it sometimes. So you've got to be like, okay, how can we push the X Division title, up into that main event or up into that semi-main event or an X Division match? If it's not for the title, then, we really need a good feud or something between some X Division wrestlers. And since they're already having a good match or a good feud, like, why not put the title on it? Like, I know some people are against that, but again, I think that is a good idea a lot of the time, and not always to be like, oh, well, now somebody's become the third wheel in this feud or whatever it is. But yeah, like, it's a good idea to put the title on somebody so that if you say, oh, well, in 6 months we're going to wrap this up, with culminating this other person who finally gets their redemption or their revenge or whatever else it is, after beating somebody, who, they had a feud with for the last 6 months or whatever it is. I also kind of feel like Impact and Explosion kind of, you start, asking yourself, what is the branding or the theme or the idea behind each show? We're here to make an impact. We're exploding onto the scene. Those are the kind of, things that kind of, you feel like are, I don't know, the theme of the show, I guess, type thing. TNA, what is the idea of TNA? Total non-stop action. There's always something else. And so I know some people criticize some of the things that they've done here and there, and sometimes I do feel like perhaps they do need to pause for a second on some things and let them really sink in and make you really feel like, oh man, what the heck is this person going to do? But you do always need to move on to the next thing. There's always something else and something else and something else. So it's really, really hard to, find that, balance between, do we cut to the back now? Do we cut to the back now? Do we cut to this now? Do we cut to that now? It's always a fine tuning type thing that some people say, oh no, you should have spent one more second there. You should have cut it a second before that or whatever it was. And that sort of thing, it's tough to figure out. But yeah, certainly I do feel like some things need to be important and you need to leave them lingering on a moment sometimes. And some things do linger a little bit too long, or it seems like they've gone, well, we're just about to break and we mistimed it slightly. So, well, we've got to linger on this for another second or two. So I don't know. But yeah, I think everything has to have branding. Same thing with your wrestlers, actually. This is another thing that you can get into. Each wrestler needs their own branding. And that's what, I think now really gets a wrestler into, especially the more casual fans' perspective of knowing who's in TNA or knowing who these wrestlers are just by looking at them. You can tell who they are or tell a lot about them just by looking and seeing, some of the stuff that they've got. If you've just, understand the black boots, black tights type thing, some people can have that, but that has to be for very specific people, and you still have to have more than just the black boots and the black trunks or whatever it is. You've got to have your logos and your insignias and whatever else it is on those boots, on those trunks, so that they stand out somewhat and not just, oh, I haven't bought any gear and I'm being lazy, or, not that you are, but again, it does seem a little bit lazy and not like you're trying too hard to have, if you're not going to have, if you're just going to have black boots and black tights or whatever it is, at least have your name or your logo or whatever it is on them, that type of thing. Because again, that is something that really brands you as a wrestler. You know, if people can see that you've got something going on more than just like black boots and black trunks, they will see, oh, you're a serious wrestler. You know, like you're very serious, or you're a very, simple person in many ways. But, Macklin has that. He's a very, serious, straightforward, simple wrestler. But he does what he does in the ring so well, and he has such a good character and good charisma and good aura and whatnot, whatever you want to call it, that it works for him. Steve Austin used to have that, but it works for some guys and it doesn't work for other guys. For other guys, you've got to have a bit more, of something, or a bit of something else, or, try to figure something out, because otherwise you just look too much like, not create a wrestler in WWE, but sort of like that. Like you're just like the basic model wrestler, and it doesn't look like you're trying, or, like whatever. You've got to have so much sort of going on with your gear that helps you out to make you stand out in a way, even if that is being not bland, but being more basic, because that is reflected of your character, of what you're doing or where you're going, or, whatever, So, again, all of these little pieces and little things, and there's so much more, but I don't really want to keep going along here and getting into every single thing. I think you guys get the idea. We all get the idea of some of these things, and I really wanted to harp on the lockdown thing there, I guess, and I'm kind of coming back to it now just to sort of semi-wrap up or whatever. But the reason for that is, like I said, it's right in my brain, and it is right in a lot of people's brain right now. So, yeah, that is one of those things that I really do wish that, I think we all, like, as I said, we all know and we all feel like we know this is what it is. So give the fans what they want. Like, people have been asking for this sort of thing for a long time. Like, and why not just call it lockdown? Like, what's the issue? Or whatever it is. Like, that's where I'm at. So, like, again, but every other piece of thing here that I've also discussed is also important. You guys know that. So hopefully we can keep the branding of the shows and try to find things that keep everything, feeling like, oh yes, this is on theme, or this is, this makes sense, or whatever else it is. And that's one of the problems that I've sort of said as I have here and there, of like having problems with Explosion, because it's not been the best of shows, because they just don't put enough effort into it and whatnot, and it's like, cool, not really worth watching. So it's just like, well, I've not watched it for a long time, because it's just like, what's the point? Like, it doesn't feel like I have to watch it, because there's nothing on there that, makes you go, oh, well, damn, they're actually doing stuff over here, and actually, doing more things than just, playing a dark match or whatever else it is, or whatnot, or playing a match that basically has a jobber and a guy that needs a win that's going to lose soon on it. Like, that type of thing. So, yeah. And it's not just got a few matches here and there that, didn't make it to TV, or a few segments that didn't make it to TV, or whatever else it is. Again, it's like, well, why not? That's where, again, you could put things like In Case You Missed It. Instead of having the, the title or the main event of the show, you should have some of these digital media or sort of social media exclusives in case you missed it. Like, some people aren't on social media 24/7 or whatever it is, and don't see some of these things or whatever it is. So just putting them there and putting them as part of your show, again, and having them in highlight packages for later is just useful. So again, yeah. Anyway, guys, I think that's pretty much it here. Hope you guys have enjoyed this one, and hope you guys will join me again in another one.